Welcome back everyone, my name is SiahZ. I've been having an absolute blast playing Helldivers 2, but if you're like me, you might not really have a lot of people to be playing this game with and running 4-man squads 100% of the time. Now the game is still difficult even with 4 full players. Take away 3 running solo missions on difficulty 7 and 8, the game becomes even more exceedingly difficult. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of these tips that I've been running when solo playing to complete some of those higher difficulty missions and just to really help you guys out when you don't have an actual squad. So with that being said, let's get straight into the video. Now since we are running solo play and we don't have anybody else on our team and it is just us, we cannot get overran. So that brings us to our first tip. Before you go in and engage the enemy, what you can do is throw a sentry down, such as the mortar sentry, before you go and engage them, and that way it'll kind of give you a support fire and it'll do a large area explosions to really help clear out that pack. You can also run stuff like the autocannon sentry, the minigun sentry, pretty much whatever else you want, but sentries are going to be your best friends here because they are going to allow you to really take out huge packs of enemies a lot quicker than you just running by yourself without having sentries. Since we don't have anybody else in the party, it really does act as like another player. Whenever you have sentries out, you'll definitely see a huge difference when clearing packs and missions while using sentries rather than not. Now running through these missions and starting out, if you do not have anybody, or even if your friends are not on and you're trying to level, defense missions are going to be the best missions for XP. Now they are very quick, 10-minute time limit. You just go in and kill an X amount of enemies, whatever difficulty you're on, it'll scale up or down, and basically doing that is going to give us a good amount of XP. It is going to be a lot quicker than completing the normal missions, such as like defeat bio titans or chargers or anything like that, or launch codes, because it is going to be so much faster and you're going to get still a really good amount of XP. On average, you'll get about 200 to 300 depending what difficulty you're on, and like I said, it only takes 6 to 7 minutes to complete. So mix that with our sentries being able to act as kind of an AFK farm almost once you upgrade them enough and you get the better sentry types. And then like I said, when you're starting out, you can do this as well without the sentries. It's going to be a really quick and fast way to level rather than spending 30 to 40 minutes in a main mission. Now throughout this video, if you find it enjoyable or any of the information useful, or maybe something you didn't know, you could consider that like and subscribe button. It's pretty much the best way to help me and support me. It really helps let me know that you guys like these type of videos, and it really lets YouTube know that you guys are enjoying these videos, and it pushes it out to new people, which in turn helps me. And like I said, that is the best way you guys can support me. Now, I normally don't do this, but let's try to put a like goal on this video of 1,000 likes. Let's see if we can get it in 24 hours. I've never done that before, but I decided, you know what, let's try it for this video and see what happens. Like I said earlier, the main thing that makes solo play so difficult is because you do not have anybody else to help you. So once you start getting a lot of enemies on the screen, and if you can't deal with them, you're pretty much going to fail the mission because you're going to constantly keep dying. So one way you can deal with that is make sure you kill the little bugs that spew out the fog for the breach holes. This is what they look like. Just make sure that whenever they start to do that, you'll have about a half a second from that starting animation to kill them before their breach actually opens. Now for the automatons, this is basically the equivalent of the bugs. They will basically shoot a flare up in the air, which will summon the dropship to drop in more reinforcements. So again, you'll have about half a second from when they pull the flare pistol out, so make sure that you actually go ahead and kill them before they shoot it, because like I said, the more enemies on screen, if you can't deal with them, you're just going to die over and over again and not be able to complete the mission. So we want to keep the playing field as small as possible when we are alone. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about stratagems. So what I really love using is the autocannon. Now since we are alone, we are going to have to be a all-rounder ourselves, since we can't specialize saying, hey, I'm going to run the supply pack, okay, you're running autocannon and so on. We're going to need ways to deal with high armored enemies. So that's why I said I really like using the autocannon, because it is a very good weapon to deal with high armored enemies. Obviously, if you want to run like the railgun and other things like that, that is fine. Just make sure though that you're running a stratagem that actually can deal armor pen. Since we are solo, we're going to have a way to deal with those enemy types that cannot be dealt with by other means. Especially when you mix the autocannon with these sentries, it'll allow you to take out high armored enemies really quickly, as well as being able to take out huge packs of enemies fast as well. The autocannon is just all around a really good weapon because of the AoE explosive radius, plus how good it takes out armored enemies. So it is just such a good all-around stratagem, and that's why I recommend using it. Now, since we're on the topic of stratagems, the next thing for tip 5 is use the EMS strike. The EMS strike is going to allow you to instantly stun huge packs of enemies especially if you're going against the tougher, more tankier enemies that are armored on the front. We can go ahead and throw the EMS strike down, go behind them while they're stunned, and really do that damage we need with the autocannon to go ahead and kill them or clear out packs of enemies if we need a breather. It is such a good stratagem to use, such a good orbital to use, especially if you're running away from a pack of enemies. You can throw it on your feet and keep running, and they'll get stunned and you can turn around and deal with them. It is so good for solo play because it allows us to have a get out stratagem basically to use if we need a second or two to breathe, reset, you know, reload, whatever. It is so good as well when you pair it with our sentries, our auto cannons, and other stratagems like the eagle strike, you know, orbital bombardment, pretty much any other thing. It is such a must and such a good stratagem that I 100% advise using pretty much all the time, especially if you are alone. Now, since we are kind of on the topic of a get out stratagem or a breather or something like that, if you are getting overran, I 100% use the launcher plants. Now, this is what they look like. They will kind of, you know, blow up if you're on them and kind of obstruct your view and stun you for a second, or at least slow you down. But a really cool thing you can do with them is if you actually go and melee them, you will get launched backwards, basically in any of the direction that you're facing. So what I do with them basically is I'm getting chased, I will go ahead and just melee one of them and fly backwards to kind of safety to get a breather to reset, rethink on how I want to strategize this, maybe throw an EMS down, you know, maybe a orbital, a eagle strike, something. So it is a very good thing to use, especially like I said, if you're getting chased. Just make sure that you keep an eye out for him, but this is something I don't think many people do or use. That's why I wanted to go ahead and incorporate it. I've been using this a lot in solo play, and it's really helped me out to kind of stay alive and get out of those big packs when I'm getting overran. Now, for our next tip I want to talk about is armor types. Now, each person is going to have their own opinion, and you know, you guys might disagree with me on this, but I think using the heavy armor is definitely a no-go. Now, the reason why I say this is because the cons outweigh the positives in my opinion, especially when you're doing solo play. Now, if we look, the armor rating is good, yes, but the speed and stamina is just way too poor compared to medium or light. Now, if you run medium as well, you can run something like the med kits where you get 2 more stims, which is really useful, plus it increases your stim defect duration. Or you could do the engineering kit to get 2 more nades. But what I really like using when I'm solo playing is the light armor, specifically one with the scout passive, like the infiltrator armor has. Now, the reason why I say that is because you can go in and you can really take your time and strategize when you're going through the game solo style. You can put pings in front of you, scout where enemies are, you know, strategize where you want to take them, maybe throw out your artillery sentry before you go in, you know, maybe EMS strike or orbital them, and really figure out if there is any armor enemies and so on. It's just such a good armor type, especially allowing you to run really quick and have really good stamina regen to get out of enemies, to outrun them. Maybe you're just going through a mission real quick and you just need to collect some loot and extract. It is such a good armor to use. Now, obviously you can run medium, like I said, if you're trying to get more nades and stims, but majority of the time I would run light armor. Now, make sure when you guys are playing to use the environment. Now, this is a universal tip that you can take in anywhere, but the environment is key to majority of the fights and to staying alive. Getting up on height, using the environment to kind of juke your enemies out, block line of sight. It is so useful in many different ways. Just make sure that you are using it to the fullest, especially when you factor in that you have mortar sentries, you know, EMS strikes, auto cannons. Getting to somewhere where the enemies can't reach you or to a better position is just such a good thing to keep in the back of your mind whenever you're playing. It'll really help you progress through the missions and be way more efficient. Speaking about being efficient in missions, make sure that you complete missions as fast as possible. Now, the more time spent and the longer that you are in a mission, the more enemies that will spawn. So try to finish the mission as fast as possible, and tracking that in with the light armor as well to being able to ping in front and scan where enemies are to avoid patrols and so on definitely allows you to complete these missions a lot quicker. So just make sure that you complete them as quick as possible. If you're not trying to target farm like samples or medals and so on, if you're just trying to go to the mission objective and get out to get the medals or XP, make sure that you complete it quick as possible. The longer you stay, the more enemies will spawn. Now, talking about, you know, pinging, figuring out where enemies are, completing the missions and stuff, the last tip we have is the radar dish. Now, the radar dish won't pop up on the minimap. You actually have to find the building, but it's pretty easy to find. Just look for that little radar dish and the giant tower whenever you're running around. Now, try to prioritize getting this 100% every time you see it. This will fully unlock all the nests on the minimap, Plus, it'll show you all the minor places of interest, side objectives, and so on. It is a really useful side objective to do. Plus, you'll get more XP and money and stuff like that for completing this. But just keep that in mind that it will reveal everything, and that's the main reason why to do it. So this way you can strategize how you want to take on the mission and take on the area. Like I said, I hope you found the video useful and some of the information relevant. If you have any other information you think that should be added to this whole solo tips, let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night, depending on when you're watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.